Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Carlton People. On today's episode, a unique story. Very excited for this one. I've got a fellow Northside boy growing up in the northern suburbs down in Mill Parkway, and a guy who really applies his craft as an artist these days, a really up-and-coming musician and creator in the Aussie hip-hop space. But we're going to talk to him about his Carlton side. Brandon Stone, welcome, bro.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me.
No, the pleasure's all mine, mate. As I said, I think for the most part, a lot of the work and energy and thought that you put into your life at the moment is centered around your music.
Yep.
We'll touch on that in a moment, but I've got to ask you, mate, talk to me about the blues and talk to me about the beginning and you as a Carlton person.
Well, mate, I didn't have a choice whether to be Carlton or not. It sort of just ran in the family. My grandfather, my dad, it's just sort of been passed on. I remember the very first memory I had, it was my pop buying me a little plastic footy with a Carlton symbol on it when I was probably 4 years old. And then looking back on pictures, I was born, I'm only 20 years old, so I was born in 99. And I still have the woolen old Carlton jumpers with a number 43 on the back for Cooter that my granddad got for me. But when you talk about Carlton, mate, there's just so many. But having a granddad and then a dad and then my whole family's Carlton, you can't count the memories, mate.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was born in 91, so, I kind of remember 99, the prelim and all of that,
Yeah.
obviously watching it on the video. But, my memory really kicks in, 205, 206 when we were we started getting a little better, not great, but better.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what it's like being part of this generation where, the success hasn't been there a lot. It's really just handed down from dad and as you said, grandfather, and they tell you about the stories about the golden era.
Yeah, it's difficult. I won't lie, it's difficult just having, especially I have a lot of Richmond supporters and I've only started hearing about them in the last 3 years. So, you can't, I'm always going to say I'm a Carlton supporter. When people ask me who do you go for, I'm always going to say Carlton. I'm not, we've had our slump. But, there were some good days there, towards the end of Rats and at the start of Malthouse, even though people won't admit that. But through the finals, there was a bit of success there, winning a couple of finals. But, it's the game of footy, mate. You're going to go through it. And unfortunately, that's just the stage we're in currently and have been for a little bit. But at the end of the day, mate, it is what it is. It's footy.
100%. What's your first memory, whether it be watching a game, going to a game? What's the first memory that sticks out?
Just in footy in general or Carlton?
Well, Carlton. We'll touch on footy for you because obviously there's a bit there, but for Carlton.
Carlton. Always early on when I thought of Carlton, obviously my favourite player early on was Cooter. Cooter was, my granddad named his dog Cooter and then his goldfish Cooter. So he didn't know who he was feeding at one point. He just kept calling names. But Cooter was just there, and then you had Lance Whitnell, Matty Lappin, Houlihan, Satantara Halpin, all these boys, Brad Fisher, people that you talk about and they'd be like, who's that? But they're a bit, Brett Thornton. But Carlton, when I hear Carlton early on, it was always Fev. It was just Fev. Fev's my favourite player, always will be. Just Fev is just the pinnacle of, because I played forward line so Fev was the guy, you know what I mean? But yeah, that earliest memory was Fev. Just that's why I watched mainly Carlton, mate, just to come watch Fev. I was there. The one that stood out was when Franklin kicked 100. The Fev was stuck on 99. I was at that game. I left crying because I was upset that Fev didn't get the 3 digits, but that's the one that probably stood out most for me.
Yeah, that motherfucker Clarkson.
Mate, they would triple team Fev, mate. I still hold a grudge to this day about that. Like, I just think when are you going to see two people kick 100 goals in the same season in the same match ever again? Like, for the game, I think that would have been something really special for the game, and I don't think that would have been duplicated ever or in a long time. So I find that so shit on Clarko's part, but it's done. What can you do?
No, I feel you, man. I feel you. Fev he was obviously, he was that draw card, and to be honest, man, we haven't really had a forward who's been able to take the game by the scruff of the neck, for a whole season. Harry's had little glimpses, Charlie's had his glimpses as well, but Fev had this thing where, he'd mark it from 55 out, and he's going back, and you're like, he's kicking this. Like he had that
you already knew.
ability. Yeah, best believe. 25 meters out, didn't matter where. Some forwards these days, when they kick it longer, they're better.
Yeah.
And some of them, they don't know how to kick it when it's close. The pressure gets to them, but he was a man of the moment.
Yeah, as soon as he had the ball in his hands, mate, you knew you were going to get a score on the board. So, yeah, he was the best forward I've seen, I think. And people always say they like to compare. I remember seeing some on Facebook. It was compare Jono Brown and Fev in their prime. And I said, mate, I don't think we've seen Fev in his prime. I said the closest we've seen Fev in his prime was probably the 2010 Brownlow. I said that's probably the closest thing, but I don't really like comparing that because at the end of the day, they're both very different players.
Yeah.
Jono Brown's a very traditional forward, and Fev could do anything, mate. He really could do anything. But Fev's the all-time pinnacle of full forwards for me, and what I've seen.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about you. Now, obviously, you've been really heavy into your craft, into your art. I was just telling you before we started this, Matt, who I went to uni with, who linked us up. I was in the studio listening to some of your music. I fuck with it heavy. I got to say that off the bat. But talk to me about transitioning into music and where that all began for you.
Music, I grew up. People are fairly surprised because I rap. I do a lot of melodic stuff in regards to hip hop. But early on, my earliest memories are my mum playing like Guns N' Roses, and my dad loved Metallica, Iron Maiden, all these kind of things. So rap really wasn't really involved too much in my upbringing and what I'd listen. It probably came in around. I probably shouldn't have been listening to it, but probably like 9 years old, 10 years old. I remember being on the coffee table. I was rapping Eminem with a hairbrush, the end of a hairbrush, and my mum filmed it. But it was never really in the conversation. And, I went to school in East Doncaster, and I was living in Melbourne, Mill Park. So there was a long bus ride there from going back and forth. And my friend Mark, he didn't rap. He didn't really take it seriously, but, he'd have a few bars here and there, would be on the bus just sort of exchanging words. And I thought, fuck it. I'm going to get my notes out. I'm going to put some words together. I'll see how we go. And the first couple of weeks, I never showed him because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to say anything. And then as the weeks went by, the words and the syllables and the sentences started to get a bit clearer, and pronunciation was on point. I said, have a listen to this. And then I said the bars that I had, and he didn't have nothing to say. He sort of just looked at me like, man, like, are you all right? Like, what have you been doing? And I said, what? Do you like it? He's like, like, that's crazy. So then it just sort of went from there. I just kept leveling up. I put hours and hours into this, but it's sort of from that stage sort of progressed me on to where I am now, performing in front of hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of streams. All of that is sort of just that was the foundation of it, on a bus, literally just writing bars in your notes on your phone. That's really where it sprung from.
Yeah, 100%. I just had a young fella named Ethan who runs a Carlton fan channel, very similar to what I'm doing. He does a lot of Instagram, and he's slowly started getting into YouTube. And I was talking to him about, he's in year 12 at the moment, and I was talking to him about, coming up, these platforms that we have now. And, it's not necessarily about, pick your job that you're going to do for the rest of your life. You've got this opportunity now to really create something on your own bat. Whatever you're actually passionate about, you can go out there, put the work in, and create something for your own. What's that experience been like for you?
It was to create it, to step out the box kind of thing.
Yeah.
At the start, it was very challenging because nobody did it like my age. You know what I mean? Everyone was sort of. So when I say my age, this was probably year 7 or 8, I would have been 13, 14 years of age. So everyone was focused. It was either you're going to do a trade, you're going to go into uni, sports, and no one ever in the slightest would think, all right, this kid is going to be a rapper and make something out of it, right? Anyone can be a rapper, and that is probably where it'll stay. But to elevate and touch different grounds with it, it's very different. So early on, it was challenging because a lot of people be like, no, you're not whatever. Like, it's just whatever. Go do something normal or something that's safe. But, I wouldn't listen as usual. But, yeah, I just progressed, mate. And I just didn't want to do anything that was standard and set. I just really wanted to do something different. And that's probably what I was good at and what I enjoyed. I liked expressing myself through it, just emotion. And it was a good way to get out. Like coping mechanisms, I use music as that. But yeah, man, that's really, it was challenging at the start, but now, I had people that would say, no, you can't do that now. They're in my messages saying, I love your new song. So it's a real full circle type deal. But yeah, everything, it turned out how it was meant to, I think.
Yeah, I feel you. When I graduated from high school in '08, so that was still, that was iPhone 1 days,
Yeah, yeah.
that was, my childhood is sort of pre-social media, and then right in that sweet spot when I was sort of 21, 22, that's when it really took off. And, I was living that normal life, because there wasn't a platform or there wasn't anything out there at that stage to really give you that opportunity to pursue what you really wanted deep down. And
Yeah.
I remember doing 3 years of practice as a lawyer, and then at the end of that 3 years, I was like, well, fuck, the world changed quickly. YouTube happened. Podcasts were sort of slowly coming into the fold.
Yeah.
And then, and I just ran away from, that normal life, and realized, hey, I can do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah, anything. That's right. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a unique conversation because obviously at the moment you're identified through your art, and someone like me who's just come into contact with you will know you through your music. But you've got a footy side to you as well, and I'm excited to explore that. Talk to me about junior footy days. You mentioned that you played for Mill Park. Talk to me about your footy experience.
There's a lot. There's a lot. So I probably would have started playing football for Mill Park. I'd say 2008. I'm just trying to remember my footy photos. I'm pretty sure it might have been 2008, maybe a little bit earlier. So yeah, under 9s, did 2 years under 10s, then all the way through. I was captain from under 14s to 17s, and then Mill Park has no senior side, so it is what do you call it? Like a sort of pathway club into Watsonia.
Okay.
And
is that the main club that they're affiliated with for junior to senior?
Yeah, correct. So it is now, yeah. But they always had a Watsonia under 19s. So instead, my year just happened to be my year. The under 17s were transitioning into Watsonia, and I said that was enough for me. I've sort of drifted off, but I ended up coming back, and training with the boys again because Watsonia agreed that it was going to be Mill Park under 19s instead of Watsonia. And I really play for the jumper. So if it was a Watsonia jumper, it wasn't going to happen. But because they had the Mill Park jumper on, I thought, you know what, I'll go around again. I'll have another crack. And I got named the first under 19s Mill Park captain again by the players and the coaches and all that. So that happened. I went through all the Northern Night process for a couple of years there, represented NFL 3 years. Multicultural nights, as I'm Irish, so I was born in Ireland, so that ties in there. I played for them for 2 years, and that's sort of it. We won a premiership in 2012. I think we beat Panton Hill. We didn't score until the 3/4 time, and then we ended up winning by 66 points. I kicked the first goal, I remember, and then I was super sick after that because I was nervous all game, and I was sick a couple of days later. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. that's my footy. So I've been around it pretty much all my life.
Yeah, yeah. How closely are you following it at the moment?
When it comes to Carlton, I can't. No matter how frustrated I get, no matter how angry I get, I can't. It's Carlton, so I'm always going to be in tune with what's going on, the trades, how boys are performing now that Harry's back and Eddie's back in the colours he should have always been in. I'm always staying in tune with what's happening.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not a religious person personally, but I can kind of understand why people are, and that's because of my experience with the club.
Yeah.
The way it controls my emotions, like how deeply a loss affects me,
Yeah.
how happy I am on a Monday after a weekend after we've won a game. It's like it's mind blowing what 22 guys on a field can do to me.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel you. I'm exactly the same, man. The games really depend on what kind of a week you're about to have, really.
100%. And we've seen the worst of it. Obviously, 2018 was, I don't know what the fuck that was. That was that was as bad as it gets. 2 wins, but I think not many clubs can survive with membership increasing by 15% after that year. I don't think many clubs can do that.
It's unheard of.
We just got that proud history, which at some point it's not going to run out, but at some point, that pressure's got to turn from, hey, we've gone to the draft, we've got all these young studs, and then at some point it's got to be, hey, there's expectation now.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about, what you're seeing, currently, the list, the club, where we're at, on field, off field. What are your vibes there?
Well, since you brought up that, when it came to 2018 and we won 2 games, obviously I'm disappointed, but at the end of the day, I said we can't get any worse than this unless we don't win any games, which I couldn't see that happening.
Yeah.
Like we had a really bad year, and I said, mate, it's only up from here. So I knew there was going to be improvement. Eddie Betts came on the list. We got McGovern. I know people criticise him a fair bit, but we got McGovern. We got Charlie when he's not injured. We got Charlie there. We got H. We got Gibbons, who I absolutely love. I love Gibbons.
Natural footballer.
Literally, I reckon too. I love Gibbons. We got Simo down there, who's going to be around for another 20 years. We got Liam Jones down there who puts it in every week. You look at it on paper, even Murph, who's had the best 2 seasons I think he's had in a very long time. It's all there. On paper, it's all there. It's just a matter of when things are going to change. And I think they will, especially with Teggy there. Like you've seen the last few games of last season, how the boys reacted with it, with a bit of freedom, with a bit of change. And that's when I think Murphy really sort of stood up as well. With Murphy, it may be perhaps a little bit of a different role. But yeah, it's bound to change, mate. We, as I said, we couldn't have got any worse than what it was. And as you can see through the second half of last year, that we came really close to some really, really good teams there. So we're only get better, mate. It's just a matter of time.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think against like the Richmonds and the West Coast, and, the Collingwoods, the GWSs, we're probably not there yet.
Yeah.
But the way we played against, especially Richmond and West Coast end of last year, I think both of them were only 4 goals. I mean, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
We know we're not going to win every week, but to have games where you just get flogged 10, 11 goals, it's hard to keep going. When does it turn for you from, hey, the young guys, give him some room, to no, now it's time to start winning?
I'd say for our young boys, it's really hard when you have Sam Walsh in your team, because he came in straight away and literally he could fit in any side, really, as a first year. So I think that's really good, because all the other youngsters, you think, fuck, I sort of got to lift my game here. So for our club in particular, I really couldn't put a time frame on it, because you look at Walsh and his progression, which is unnatural to fit in that quickly in a side like this. But yeah, probably I was expecting results this year. I wasn't expecting to make the 8. I was expecting maybe 10, maybe 9 or 10 just out of it. But come next year, well, if this season continues, come next year, I'm expecting a little bit more. I'm expecting a lot more wins. You know, I was always sort of the mindset. I said, if we lose, then we lose. As long as there's a bit of effort there, then I don't have too much to complain about. But you know, that 2018, there were games there when I was just, you know, I'd watch till quarter time and the TV went off.
Fucking
But
nuts.
yeah, mate. But next year, I'm definitely expecting, you know, effort's there, but we need to start moving that scoreboard around.
Yeah, for sure. I think 2021 onwards for me, it's got to be close to finals,
Yeah,
2021, if not in finals, and then 2022 onwards, it's got to be the window. You know,
yeah,
I reckon we got a little blindsided. Like for me, we had 06, 07, 08, where we brought in Murphy, Cruiser, Gibbs, then we went and got Juddy, and
yeah,
I just kind of expected, like, all right, well, here are three
yeah,
guys, number one picks, 10,
yeah,
15-year careers. You add Juddy, we're going to be grouse for, a decade now, and it all sort of came around. 2010 was good. We made finals. We obviously lost to Sydney that year. 2011 was grouse, and that was just what I expected. And then it was just kind of, it just ended.
yeah,
Like that era just ended.
yeah.
What's your memories of that?
That's probably that's the peak of Carlton. I think for me, that was the best that they got from what I've seen. Unless, you know, I've got the '95 grand final DVD in my room against Geelong where we fucking flogged them. But yeah, I thought the exact same thing when Chris Judd came aboard. I thought, you know what, this is it. I didn't really see too much of Chris Judd at West Coast because West Coast was never on the TV because we're in a
Yeah.
household full of Carlton. So when he came over and my old man was talking about, my pop was talking about, I said, all right, you know, he's not some dud we just picked up. You know what I mean? So he came, and then I was just looking at it. You know, as you said, we had Murph there, we had Gibbs, we had Cruz. So I think when he's on, he's the best. Him and Grundy are the best two in the game that can really do what they do. But yeah, I really thought that was the window for us. Also, I felt like Chris Judd was there for 7 years or something,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, he did his I think it might have been his hamstring first, and then his ACL. Yeah, and then that sort of cut that, and then I feel towards at the end of Murphy's when he was captain there the last 2 years, Murphy fell off a lot. Obviously, Gibbs had a few stellar seasons there right before he got traded, which was disappointing. But and then obviously Cruiser, who's been riddled with injuries pretty much his whole career, which is disappointing. But you know, this is footy. It's, you know, it's a sport we play, and things unfortunately happen. But I think that's just the way the cards turned. Even especially with Juddy. As soon as Juddy sort of retired, it was sort of a little bit down from there. But yeah, I agree that was our window. But obviously, it's footy and missed opportunities happen, and I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. You touched on, your experience. You went through the system. You played Knights footy. So what was it? Were you in draft conversations? Did you go through that sort of process too? What was that?
I'd like to say I was, but I don't know. A lot of people around me say I would have been if I, you know, I wasn't extremely fit. I was I wouldn't say lazy, but I would say lazy. You know, a lot of people around me, you know, there's people I know, like for example, I'm friends with Isaac Quaynor who plays at Collingwood. I went to school with him. You know, and he's in the draft, and I've played on Jack Petrotelli, who plays at West Coast now. He played at Epping, which is an arch rival of Mill Park, as you might
Hell yeah, it is.
know, them and South Morang. But yeah, people around me say, you know, if I wasn't lazy and, you know, I put in a little bit more, you know, you'd sort of be around that. And I say, yeah, well, I said we're past that, and I really don't like to dwell on the past. And
Yeah,
I
of
thought,
course.
maybe I probably could have. I believe I could have, if I really did. But yeah, it just didn't go the way I think everyone expected. You know, my dad and my pop really thought, obviously they're relatives and they're going to support me, but they really thought. We're watching the draft one night when Petch got drafted and his name got called out. My dad turned to me, he's like, mate, that would have been you. And I thought, fuck. Mate. He said, you're probably right. But yeah, coming up through, you know, NFL rep squads and it felt at home, and I thought, at that one point there, the draft was the goal. That's where I wanted to be, but things just didn't turn the way. Injuries and all that kind of stuff. Turning 18, getting your license, understanding what drive-through KFC is, and all these kind of things, all these little factors, partying, and sort of just it takes life in different directions. But I'm a strong believer in everything happens for a reason. So it just is what it is, mate.
Yeah, 100%. I played ball growing up my whole life. Loved the footy. Mum said it was too rough for me to play as a youngster, so she put me in basketball.
Yeah.
And then when I was old enough to drive, I started playing footy. It was, obviously later in my life. Petrocelli, I played basketball for Whittlesea, and I knew he played footy, but I always knew Jack, and I actually played some games with Jack on
He
a
was
Sunday
always known
night.
as a basketball player.
Bro, he was a fucking guard. Like,
Yeah,
great basketballer.
Yeah.
I remember when he got drafted, and as I said, I knew he played a bit of footy, but I didn't know he was at that level.
Yeah.
And I remember when he got drafted, I was like, shit, like he's really skinny.
Yeah.
And then, I've seen his pace, but it's a different kind of pace. Basketball so much stop-start, and you've got, X amount of room to really show your pace. Then I see him on the footy field. Woo!
Yeah. I remember we played Epping. We ended up winning this game miraculously because they were I'm pretty sure they won 4 premierships or something in a row. And we were always sort of roundabouts, Div 2, high Div 2, never Div 1, and they were always Div 1. So this year they were in Div 2, and we were tipped up there Div 2 as favourites. And we played Epping at Mill Park Stables, Red Leap Reserve.
Shout out Red Leap Reserve.
Yeah, that's home. And he was full forward this game because he had basketball tournament the next day. So he was full forward resting, right?
Yeah.
So he was resting in full forward. Mind you, he kicked about 9, I think,
Wow.
this game, right? He kicked about 9. I could be mistaken, but it was something like that. So I'm a natural forward, so I'm pretty sure I would have been centre half forward. I've got a good leap, and if the goals are there, I'm kicking it. I don't care who's in front of me. But through the first few years of my juniors, I love playing back. I love being physical. I sort of like hurting people a little bit on the field. So I always liked to be at the back. And I've always been a really fast kid, so running off the back. Similar to Cade Simpson, I always looked up to his style, especially as well. Chris Yarran was my favourite player at the time. I really mirrored sort of how he played. So Jack was in full forward, and he was just absolutely fucking killing us, mate, the first half. And when someone's usually killing us, Brandon, go play on him. It's just to try and get the job done. And I remember, I came in there with a really big head. I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna deck him. I'm just gonna smack him around. And the first footy came in, and I got caught behind a little bit. But as I said, I'm pretty fast, so I closed the gap fairly quick. And then all of a sudden, he decided to jump, and I'm just watching him, and he's about 3 feet off the ground, and he just kept going, and I didn't even bother to spoil it. And he just took one over the pack. I said, all right. I said, it's not going to be too easy for me. And I'm pretty sure he ended up kicking 3 or 4 while I was playing on him as sort of a little bit of an ego check.
Yeah.
I thought, maybe I have some work to do. And then I sort of cut out of it and said, nah, I'll just play forward from now on. So I didn't really touch a back line since that, which would have been under 16s or 17s. But yeah, Jack, he's got a tremendous amount of talent. Especially, he could have played basketball. He could have went very far with that.
100%.
And that's what I thought he was going with. I didn't even think he was going to be playing that day. But yeah, mate, he's an extraordinary talent.
Yeah, for sure. And the main reason why I brought up the Knights experience, because obviously you're at that age where you're in the consideration. You're playing against some of the guys who end up going to the AFL, and you touched on Sam Walsh, right? So he's obviously played his junior years. He's come up through under 17s. He might have even played some under 19s. I'm not sure. Do you have any sort of thoughts on how fucking hard it is to do what he did in his first year?
Extremely, because when I went up through Knights, just the not tack, but sort of below that, just growing into that.
Yeah.
It was always, you had to be over 175, 180 centimeters. It was that period there where Northern Knights were picking just elite, tall, athletic, and Sam Walsh isn't overly tall. So, and he's around, how old is Sam? He'd be 20, 21. So he's around my age bracket, I'm pretty sure. So this would have been the same time we've sort of, and that's where it was. So for him to do what he's done at his height and his skill level and just brute power out of packs, it's just, through my footy, I don't see, as being my age, I don't really see that too much. You have good players that you've played with and, stellar few years, but mate, Sam Walsh is just, I haven't seen a rookie like him in a very long time, mate. And it's something, it's once in a blue moon type stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone sort of talks about you got to give these guys 3-4 preseasons, consistent footy year in, year out. And then some people sort of get that work in and then do what Sam Walsh did in year one. So I don't know if he's going to be one of those people who bursts onto the scene, gets his 25 a game, and then he just sort of stays around there, and that's also fine. But can't help but feel like he's going to get bigger, he's going to get faster and stronger, and he's going to be one of those, top bracket like Mark Murphy was in his third or fourth year, and he's we're talking Brownlows.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was having this chat with one of my friends the other day, and we'll just talk, and I said, mate, he's already at that. What he's done this year is what great players that have been around for 10 or so years are doing, and he's really doing it within 12 months already. And I said, he's, to me, the way I watch him play, he doesn't look to me as though, this is okay. Like he's real aggressive in his approach, and he just looks like he wants to get better. So, and the way he plays, mate, he's just got to get better. I think it's in him. So if he goes from 25 touches a game and he levels that up every year, mate, it's gonna be something scary to watch as well, with Paddy Cripps there and Ed Curnow on the wing. You got Simo. I said on paper, mate, this side is really unreal. Like we used to struggle to look for the best 22, and now it's really hard to put a best 22 together because you don't really want to leave anyone out.
Yep.
But yeah, it's Sam Walsh is something else, mate.
Yeah. So obviously you're a forward by trade, so obviously you've got a bit of a soft spot for there, and you're probably watching a lot of the forwards and how they go about it. What's your type of player? What do you think we really need in these players, apart from experience, because they're young, so obviously they need some time to grow. But what else do you need? Do you think for us?
Well, the thing is, our team right now, I think there's a lot of pieces that have not gelled. Like I don't think we've seen what Charlie can do yet. I don't think we've seen what Harry can do yet. We've seen what McGovern can do at a different club, not at ours. So to say we need a full forward is probably a reach because they're all of them. We just haven't seen it yet. I think Silvani has enormous potential. I think a lot of people put him down, even though he's the hardest worker off the ball I think we have.
Hell yeah.
We got Eddie Betts back. Regardless, a lot of people were saying, he's old. He can't kick goals. I said, mate, he kicked 37 last year, missing 2 games, and he was second in kicking behind Tex. I said, if you're not going to pick him up, mate, you've been smoking something. I said,
and he hated being there. Like he hated being at Adelaide last year as well.
I've heard a lot of stuff that a lot of players after that grand final loss, it was pretty downhill from there for that club. But yeah, you look at Ford, mate, and all the pieces are there. It just really needs to be shown. And the midfield, I don't think I need to say much about the midfield because we got Paddy Cripps, so any other team can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
Walsh is in there. You got Curnow. Ed Curnow, I think, is very underrated. His hardball gets are enormous. He does a lot. He does a lot for this team. You got Murphy in there. As I said, who stepped up in the last 3 years, who's sort of in the best form he's been in for a long time. As well as you got Simo, you got Wiedering, who I hope he had a quiet year a couple of years ago compared to his first year. His first year was really good. But Liam Jones, Wiedering, Simo, I hope Marchbank gets on his feet because I really like Marchbank. Yeah, mate, all of them on paper, it's a great side on paper. As
Yeah.
I really don't think we need too many assets. I just think the assets that we have need to perform.
Yeah.
And I think if they do that, then we're a really strong side. But as looking at things that we need, we don't need anything. I just think we need players not to get injured. I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
feel
probably
you.
the need. But
Yeah.
other than that, mate, it's a really good team when we're on.
Yeah. Talk to me about, who are some of the teams that you really love to beat. Now, obviously, I think for us, like, we get passed down the whole Carlton-Collingwood rivalry, and don't get me wrong, it's a massive rivalry. I've got a bit of respect for them. They won the flag. They've
Yeah.
been in a grand final. I still love watching them lose, and I still love the idea of beating them. But I'll let you answer this before I answer it. Who do you really love to hate the most?
Mate, I fucking hate Essendon, mate.
Yes.
I hate Essendon with a passion. To this day, I will mock them. One of my best mates is an Essendon supporter. And, mate, I'm waiting for the day we thump him and, he tells, what have you guys done in the last 10 years? I said, first of all, we beat you in a final. Second of all, we took your spot because you wanted to go on a bender. And then, all these kind of things, mate. I just absolutely hate Essendon with a passion. Yeah, that's the main club. And obviously, you love beating Collingwood. You love beating Richmond in round one, even though that hasn't happened in a while. But, the big powerhouse clubs, yeah, but Essendon is definitely up there, mate. I cannot stand them.
I've said some things to Essendon supporters. Like, they bring out this fucking rage in me that no other club does.
Yep.
Like, I say
Yep.
some dirty things that I
Yeah.
probably shouldn't. But I'm like you. One of my best mates is an Essendon supporter, and like, I do not pick up the phone unless I've said something to him about how fucking shit they are, how they're
Yeah.
cheats. Like, it's the best, because
Yeah.
they're the team that used to give it to us about salary cap, and now they're all giving us the whole, you can't call us drug cheats, it's not fair, it wasn't proven. Like, nah, game on. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
fair,
it's
mate.
all on the table, mate. As soon as it's all hell breaks loose. As soon as you want to start talking shit about footy, then you've opened the book. I said I'm going to say what I want at this point, mate. So
Yeah,
it just is what it is.
I feel you. I got a couple for you before we wrap up.
Yep.
Want to ask you, if we had unlimited money to spend, who's a one player from another club that you would want at our club?
Fuck. I'm just trying to think. I don't think we need a midfield. I'd probably say currently or just any player in the game at his prime.
Yeah, currently right now. So
Currently,
you get a big
including
brown paper
current
bag.
form.
Yep.
All right. Fuck. I really wanted to say Lance Franklin, but he's not in form. Dusty.
Yeah.
It's got to be him and Cripps, mate. Especially when that period there was when there was rumours of Cornelio, there's rumours of Shields coming, and I thought, mate, this is it. It's similar to the Chris Judd situation. I said, you know what, this is it. Obviously, none of them went through, but yeah, it'd have to be Dusty. It'd have to be, mate.
Yeah, no, I like it. Midfielder who can kick goals the way he does.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
and big time moment too.
Big time, clutch
player. Yeah.
Yep.
The last one. So we'll look back on this video in 5 or 10 years. I want you to give me the year that we win the flag.
Fuck, I've said this a lot, and I haven't been proven right yet. 25. I'm going to say that just because it was Fev's number.
Yep.
I'm going to say 25.
2025. That gives the boys another 5 years. We're talking about Sam Walsh being 26 years old.
That's prime.
Right in his prime time. Cripps will be a veteran, but, he'll still know how to play the game at a higher level.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Mate, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your time. Obviously, best of luck with all the hard work, and I can't imagine the sacrifice you put into your craft. And, like I said, I've only just started hearing your music consistently, but we'll definitely be in touch again, and you're more than welcome on the channel anytime, bro.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me. It's good fun.
Go Blues.
That's it.